Living in Thailand long-term sounds amazing until this one thing changes everything. At first, living in Thailand feels like stepping into a real-life fairy tale. But then something unexpected hits, and for many Americans, it completely changes the experience. The reality ends up being very different from what most people imagine. We break down the small mistakes Americans make when living long-term in Thailand, the kind that quietly add up and completely reshape the experience. Backed by insights from Expatistan, Budget Your Trip, and Internations. Make sure you stay until the end, because what really happens over time might startle you. It feels like you've hacked life the moment you land in Thailand, but the first few months come with a hidden catch. Month 1 starts like a dream you don't want to wake up from. Every meal is an adventure, and eating out becomes the default. Why cook when street food is everywhere? Cheap and incredible. You find yourself grabbing pad thai on a whim, trying mango sticky rice at midnight, and hopping between cafes just because you can. It feels efficient, even smart, until it quietly becomes routine. What started as excitement slowly turns into habit, and the spending, while seemingly small, begins stacking up in ways you didn't plan for. By month 2, exploring becomes your full-time lifestyle. Temples, islands, night markets, there's always somewhere new to go. You tell yourself, this is why you came, to experience everything. Weekdays blur into weekends because, honestly, what's the difference anymore? You're constantly on the move, chasing the next beautiful place or unique experience. And while it all looks incredible on camera, there's an underlying exhaustion that starts to creep in. The kind you don't notice right away because everything still feels worth it. Then comes the part most people don't expect, the lack of structure. Without a routine, your days become unpredictable. You wake up whenever, eat whenever, go out whenever. At first, that freedom feels like the ultimate luxury. No alarms, no deadlines, no pressure. But over time, that same freedom turns slippery. Productivity drops, sleep schedules get messy, and even simple tasks feel harder to manage. The line between vacation and real life completely disappears, and not in a good way. The cracks start to show. The lifestyle that once felt exciting begins to feel unsustainable. You realize that what you've been living isn't really life in the long-term sense. It's an extended holiday. And here's the truth most people don't talk about. The lifestyle that feels amazing at first isn't built to last. Without balance, structure, and intention, even paradise can start to feel unstable. And that's the turning point when you begin to see that living here long-term requires a completely different approach than just visiting. Stick around and see what happens when daily life eventually kicks in. Right when you think you figured out life in Thailand, the little things start to push back. By month 3, the honeymoon phase has faded just enough for daily friction to slip into view, but not enough for you to fully take it seriously. At first, it's easy to brush off. The language barrier. You laugh it off with a smile and a translation app. A missed delivery, a confusing bill, or a miscommunication at a cafe. It's all part of the experience, right? You tell yourself to stay flexible, to go with the flow, and most days you do. Those small moments begin to stack. Ordering food isn't always seamless anymore. You realize how often you're pointing at menus or guessing ingredients. Simple errands, like setting up services, dealing with paperwork, or asking for help, start to take more time and energy than expected. Nothing is impossible, but everything requires just a bit more effort than back home. It's subtle, but constant. Transportation adds its own layer. Getting around still feels convenient, but not always predictable. Traffic, last-minute changes, or unclear directions turn what should be simple trips into minor puzzles. Again, nothing major, just enough to slowly drain your patience without you noticing right away. By month 4, the emotional weight of these small frictions becomes harder to ignore. You start to miss the ease of familiarity. the ability to get things done without thinking twice. Back home, life had a rhythm you never questioned. Here, every task asks for a bit more attention, a bit more adjustment, and while that once felt exciting, now it feels tiring. This is also when isolation can quietly creep in. Conversations stay surface level if you haven't built deeper connections. Cultural differences, which once felt fascinating, now occasionally feel like barriers. You're still enjoying life, but there are moments when you feel slightly out of sync with everything around you. The realization settles in. It's not one big problem. It's the accumulation of small, daily friction points. The kind that don't ruin your experience, but reshape it. The kind you can ignore for a while until you can't. And that's when the question starts to form. Can you adapt to this rhythm, or will it slowly wear you down? Keep watching to see what a lifestyle mismatch can lead you to. Just when you think you've adjusted, you start trying to bring your old life back into your new one in Thailand. By month 5, something shifts. The novelty is worn off, the daily friction is real, and naturally, you begin reaching for what's familiar. It starts with food. You find yourself craving burgers, pizza, a proper brunch, something that tastes like home. At first, it's occasional, almost like a treat. But soon, Western food becomes part of your routine. You discover imported groceries, international restaurants, and specialty cafes that promise a slice of the life you left behind. But here's the catch. Those comforts come at a price. You start noticing that eating like home isn't cheap. Imported ingredients cost more. Western restaurants charge a premium, and suddenly your budget doesn't stretch the way it used to. That affordable lifestyle you once bragged about, it begins to feel tighter, not because Thailand changed, but because your habits did. Then come the comfort expectations. You want reliable Wi-Fi everywhere, consistent service, familiar customer support, and the kind of convenience you never had to think about before. When things don't match those expectations, frustration creeps in. A delayed response, a small inconvenience, a difference in how things are done. It all feels bigger now because you're comparing it to what you were used to. By month 6, the pattern becomes clearer. You're not just living in a new country anymore, you're trying to recreate your old environment within it. Maybe it's choosing pricier condos, shopping at international stores, or sticking to expat-heavy areas where everything feels more familiar. Each decision makes life easier in the moment, but also more expensive and strangely less fulfilling. And that's when the realization hits. The more you try to live like home, the more expensive and frustrating it becomes. You're caught in between two worlds. Fully local doesn't feel natural anymore, but fully Western in Thailand comes with trade-offs you didn't expect. The balance becomes harder to find, and the question changes again. Not just, can I live here? But how do I live here without losing what made this place special in the first place? Because this phase isn't just about spending more. It's about understanding that adapting isn't optional. It's the only way forward. Make sure to watch all the way through. This is when you'll realize what budget pressure can do to you in this Asian country. The biggest surprise isn't that Thailand gets expensive, it's that you do. By month 7, you're no longer the wide-eyed newcomer tracking every baht. You've settled in, found your favorite spots, built routines, and without realizing it, your lifestyle has quietly upgraded. What used to feel like occasional treats start becoming your new normal. That's where lifestyle inflation begins to creep in. It shows up in small ways first. You upgrade your apartment for a better view or a more convenient location. You choose comfort over cost when booking transportation. You start saying it's only a few dollars more often than you'd like to admit. Individually, none of it feels significant, but together, they begin to shift your entire financial baseline. By month 8, convenience becomes a major factor. Instead of navigating local options, you lean into what's easiest. Food delivery replaces walking down the street, Ride-hailing replaces figuring out public transport. You shop at places where things are familiar, even if they're priced higher. You're not being careless, you're optimizing for ease. But convenience almost always comes with a premium, and over time, that premium adds up. What's tricky is that Thailand itself hasn't changed. Street food is still affordable. Local markets are still budget-friendly. Transportation can still be cheap if you choose it that way. The environment you moved for is exactly the same, but your habits aren't. By month 9, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. You might even catch yourself wondering why your expenses feel closer to back home than you ever expected. That's when the realization lands. Thailand stays the same price, your lifestyle doesn't. It's not about one big financial mistake. It's about gradual shifts, choosing comfort a little more often, prioritizing convenience a little more frequently, upgrading just enough times that it becomes your new standard. And because it all happens slowly, it doesn't feel like overspending. It feels like settling in. But settling in without awareness has a cost. This phase forces a new kind of reflection. Not just, is it affordable here? But what kind of life am I actually building? Because in the long run, it's not the country that determines your expenses. It's the version of yourself you become while living in it. Stay with us for the one type of fatigue you should be watching out for. Somewhere around month 10, the dream doesn't end. It just starts to feel aimless in Thailand. At first, the freedom still feels like a privilege. No strict schedule, no fixed routine, no one telling you what your day should look like. You can wake up late, work when you want, explore when you feel like it, or do nothing at all. It's the kind of flexibility most people crave, and for a while, it delivers exactly what you hope for. But too much freedom has a hidden side. By month 11, the lack of routine begins to catch up with you. Without structure, your days start blending together. Mornings don't feel distinct from evenings. Weekdays don't feel different from weekends. You might still be busy, but it's scattered. Bits of productivity here, distractions there. There's no clear rhythm holding everything together. That's when the drifting feeling sets in. It's subtle at first. You find yourself asking, what did I actually accomplish this week? Or, what am I working toward? You're not struggling, you're just not moving in any clear direction. Life becomes reactive instead of intentional. You follow whatever feels good in the moment, but those moments don't always connect into something meaningful over time. By month 12, the mental fatigue becomes harder to ignore. Not the kind that comes from overwork, but the kind that comes from a lack of clarity. Constantly deciding what to do, when to do it, and why it matters starts to drain you. Without structure, even simple choices require more energy. And without purpose, even enjoyable experiences can start to feel repetitive. What once felt like the ultimate freedom slowly transforms into something else entirely. What felt like freedom starts to feel like a lack of direction. And that realization hits differently in a place like Thailand, where everything around you still looks like paradise. The environment hasn't changed. The opportunities are still there. But internally, something feels off. That's when you understand a deeper truth about long-term living. Freedom only works when it's supported by structure, and enjoyment only lasts when it's tied to purpose. Without those, even the most beautiful places in the world can start to feel like you're just passing time instead of truly living. You'll want to see where this self-discovery leads you to. Trust me. The turning point doesn't arrive with a big moment. It shows up quietly in a question you can't shake while living in Thailand. By this stage, doubt starts to settle in. Not all at once, but in small, persistent thoughts that linger longer than they used to. You could be sitting in a cafe, riding through familiar streets, or even watching another perfect sunset. And suddenly, the experience feels different. Not worse, just heavier. The excitement that once carried everything effortlessly now needs support. That's when the questions begin. Is this actually working? It's not a dramatic breakdown, it's a quiet evaluation. You start looking at your routine, your finances, your social life, your sense of direction. On the surface, everything might still look good. You're in a beautiful country, living a life many people dream about, but internally, you're starting to measure whether it's sustainable, not just enjoyable. Then comes the deeper question. Why does this feel harder than I expected? Because no one really talks about this phase. The part where the novelty is gone, but the systems to support long-term living aren't fully built. The part where small frictions, rising costs, lack of structure, and shifting expectations all intersect at once. It's not one problem. It's the accumulation of everything you've been slowly experiencing from month one until now. And that realization can feel unsettling. You start to notice the trade-offs more clearly. The things you once ignored now stand out. The lifestyle that once felt effortless now requires intention. And for the first time, you're not just reacting to your environment, you're questioning your place within it. This is the moment where everything becomes a choice again, because this is where people either adapt or start thinking about leaving. Some begin to rebuild with purpose. They create structure, reset their spending habits, integrate more deeply into the local culture, and redefine what living here actually means. They shift from chasing comfort to building sustainability. Others, though, start imagining life elsewhere, not because Thailand failed them, but because the version of the life they created there no longer fits. And that's the real turning point. It's not about the country, it's about alignment. Whether the life you're living matches the life you actually want. You'll be taken aback by what you realize after living in Thailand in the long term. What actually happens long term in Thailand isn't what most people expect. It's not the place that changes, it's your relationship with it. After a year or more, the illusion fades completely, and clarity takes its place. You begin to realize something important. It was never about Thailand changing. The streets are the same, the cost of local living is still reasonable, the culture hasn't shifted. What changed was you. More specifically, your expectations stopped matching the reality of how life actually works there. At the beginning, you expected ease long term. You thought what felt simple during the first few months would stay that way. But ease in a new country isn't automatic. It's built through familiarity, systems, and adaptation. Without that, even simple things can feel harder over time. Then there's comfort. You expected comfort without trade-offs. The idea that you could keep the best parts of home while enjoying a completely different environment. But comfort in Thailand often comes with choices, higher costs, limited availability, or a more curated lifestyle. You can have it, but not without giving something up. And maybe the biggest one, expecting a great lifestyle without structure. The belief that freedom alone would carry your experience. But as time passes, it becomes clear. Without routine, direction, and intention, that lifestyle starts to unravel. That's when the deeper truth reveals itself. Living abroad long-term isn't about finding a better place. It's about building a life that actually works there. So how do you make it work? It comes down to 3 simple rules. First, build a routine early. Structure your days before they structure themselves. Decide how you spend your time, when you work, when you rest, and what your normal looks like. Without this, everything drifts. Second, control your lifestyle upgrades. Be intentional with your spending. Just because something is affordable doesn't mean it should become a habit. Choose what actually adds value, not just convenience. Third, adapt faster than you compare. The more you measure everything against home, the harder it becomes to settle in. Let go of constant comparison and start engaging with life as it is, not as you expect it to be. Because the people who succeed long term don't chase the dream. They build a system. They create routines that support them, habits that sustain them, and expectations that align with reality. They stop trying to replicate their old life and start designing a new one that fits where they are. And here's the bottom line. Thailand can absolutely be one of the best places to live. Rich in culture, affordable in many ways, and full of opportunity. But only if you avoid these mistakes. If you want a clearer, more realistic view of living in Thailand, explore our other videos where we dive into the true day-to-day experience of expats.